Let's make some flowers with a flower nail, and then we're going to put them on cupcakes. And for this, I'm using three different colors of icing. I think that this one is egg yellow. I would have to look it up, but I think that this one definitely is egg yellow. Now I'm using parchment paper, and they're cut into little squares. When I'm doing small blossoms like this, I pipe them onto the parchment and then I set them aside to dry. This is air dry buttercream, so it doesn't have any butter in it. And so you can set it aside. It will dry, give it a day or two, but it will set up and you can remove it from the parchment and put them directly on the cupcakes. If you have cupcakes or icing, if you're using icing that has butter in it, you can put it in the freezer and that will harden the flowers up and then you can take them off. But if you do that, you need to work quickly because it did not work very well with this. This icing has no butter in it. It's just a practice icing. So the air dry buttercream works better if you let it sit out and kind of crust over and set up a little bit. But the icing with the buttercream or with butter in it actually works better in the freezer because it will not completely harden up because of the butter. Now, you notice that I'm not piping a new little dot of icing on every single time. You don't need to do that because there's always some icing left over on the piping nail, on the flower nail. And you can just take the little piece of parchment paper and stab it right on there and it will grab it. And then, eventually you're going to have to put an extra little dot. Now, see how the petals on that are a little rough? And there was something in the piping tip. If you get a little rough piece, it looks like the edges are kind of messed up. You're going to have to take a toothpick or a pin. Sometimes I use a sewing, just like a needle or something like that to clean the tip out. And that usually will fix it. If it doesn't, you could just have something stuck in the tip. So you need to take the tip off of the piping bag and completely clean it out by washing it. Now I'm going to make a daffodil. And for this one, I think I started out with a petal tip that was a little curved. I'm not sure which number this is, but I went back and used a 104 for the next one. So I'm not sure if I did both or just showed you one of them, but you're going to go up. And this is kind of putting if you're doing like a 12 o'clock as the top petal, it's going to be a 4 and a 7, somewhere around there. And you just want to divide this up into 6 petals, go up, pull it, go up, and then just back down to make that point. And once you're done with that, you do the centerpiece. And I did not use a different color. You can do a different color for the very inside piece, like the little stamen area. I'm just going to circle the bell here when you pipe the bell on. Just hold the piping bag up at a 90-degree angle and pipe all the way around. I think I did a couple layers, just depending on how it looks. You can poke it up so that it stands up a little bit more. And as long as your icing is stiff enough, it will stand up. And then, like I said, if it's a icing that has butter in it, put it in the freezer. If it's an icing that does not have butter in it, it can sit out and harden up in the air. If it's an air dry buttercream, you'll be able to peel the parchment off of the flower later. So here we're going to do another one. So you go up and then down. Now I've changed to a 104 tip for this. So this is a little straighter. Basically the same thing. I mean, there's some petal tips that have a little bit of a curve to them, but you can get, 104 tip is very versatile and you can get a lot of flowers out of that. So just do the first 3. And I think on this one, one of the petals was a little too long. It doesn't matter. You're going to put them on the cupcakes or the cake later and kind of mess around with it with leaves and that kind of thing to disguise the edges. If there's a piece that looks a little bit wrong, you can add a little bit, say that petal on the top. It's a little skinny. Doesn't matter. You can fix it later. All right, so then just pipe the bell, hold that piping bag up to a 90 degrees so it's standing up and kind of fix it if you need to. It is not a hard flower to make, but it is nice because it does have that bell in the middle that's standing up. Now, when it comes time to put them on, I put these in the freezer and they're air dry buttercream. So I had to really work fast. And that's why there's a little yellow flower on the bottom one. I got that one off and then the other ones had softened up enough. I was like, oh no. So I put them back in the freezer for 10 minutes. And you do have to work fast if there's no butter in the icing. If you let these dry out in the air, and if you're using only a shortening buttercream, then they pretty much stiffen up. They will be soft, but you can move them. And I did a video about air dry buttercream flowers, and you can do those days ahead of time and just let them kind of harden up, and they will still be soft inside, but they will be able to be handled. So I'm taking these off, and I am, like I said, I'm working fast because with the air dry buttercream, which this is, it gets hard in the freezer, but because there's no butter in it, it softens up faster because the shortening will soften up in the heat. And this was kind of a hot day. and it was humid. And a lot of times the humidity is more important than the heat when you're determining how fast a buttercream is going to melt, which is a little interesting. Even if you're in an air conditioned room, if it's humid outside, it's going to make the icing soften up faster. And see how that one didn't come off as easily? I think I had to break the pedal. So you do want to work quickly, but just put some flowers on any arrangement that you like. And then we're going to add some leaves to it later with some green icing. But this is a nice, if you make the flowers ahead of time, this is a nice way to decorate cakes or cupcakes, because as soon as you get the cake or the cupcakes and the cake iced, you can just take the flowers off and you don't have to worry about piping them at the same time. And you can do things ahead of time and just get everything ready. Now, these are cupcakes that I got at the grocery store. So you don't have to do everything. Sometimes you can just buy the cupcakes. That's all right. Okay, and I went back and added some little yellow dots. And see that little yellow dot on the top cupcake? That was a flower that just got destroyed, so I just removed it. And like I said, if you do make a mistake like that or something happens, you can fix it. Don't worry about it. So I'm going to come back in here with the number, I think this is a 67 tip, and it might be a 66. I don't remember. But it's a leaf tip, and it has a little kind of a chunk taken out in the middle, and like a little V shape in the middle that gives you that vein going down there. And depending on how you pipe this and how soft the icing is, you will get that little kind of division of the leaf at the very end. And you can go back and kind of press it together like I'm doing here in some places, or you can just leave it and just fill in the spots. But this is a really cute way to decorate cakes, or like cupcakes and cakes for springtime if you want to add some flowers. It's a pretty effect, and you can do the flowers ahead of time.